welcome back to Mrs. Sebastian's studio. Today we're going to be using 1-point perspective to draw a city again, but this time it's going to be from an ant's point of view. Stay tuned to the end and I'll give you a really interesting fact about New York City. Today we're going to be creating a city view from the ground up, also known as an ant view's perspective. And you can kind of see here how you're at the bottom on the street side looking up at these buildings. We're still going to be using 1-point perspective because all the lines are going to be converging to the middle. Here's another view here. It is going to be a little more challenging putting your own creative touch on these, but it is not impossible. You have still some room to play around, like is Spider-Man slinging his web from building to building? Maybe there's an alien invasion going on in the sky above the buildings. That choice is going to be up to you. This is what our project is going to look like when we're all done. All right, to get started with this lesson, you'll need a piece of paper, a pencil with a good eraser, and you'll need a ruler or a straight edge in order to draw straight lines, and a good imagination. All right, to get started with this lesson, we're going to need to put a vanishing point somewhere near the middle of our picture. Remember, this is going to be sky, so we probably don't want to put any other details probably until closer to the end of this particular drawing lesson. So the first building that we are going to draw is pretty simple. All you're going to need to do is draw a horizontal line that's parallel with the bottom or top edges of our paper. And then we're going to take the outside points of the line and line those up to the vanishing point right here. So they're each just barely touching the edge. Keep a couple of fingers on that ruler and draw a straight line down. And then do the same thing over here. Again, line it up, bring it down. And for our next lines, we're going to do just horizontal lines. These would be places where there may be windows. So I'm going to start off with a line that is very close to that top of the building. And then as I go down, it's going to have an increased space between the lines. So you can see here that the lines I'm doing now are further and further apart from each other with each successive one that I do. It's important to keep a couple of fingers on that ruler or else it is going to wiggle on you. Just like so. Our next featured building we're going to do is going to be a building that you're going to be able to see two sides of it. And this sort of building can be anywhere actually. The way I like to start off doing this building is I will do an L shape for a corner here. And then each one of these points will become a reference point to line up with the vanishing point. So again, this line is parallel with the left and right sides of your paper, and this side would be parallel with the top and bottom edge. And maybe just for fun, this particular building is going to have lines that go vertically across it. So I'm going to just put a few little dots here on the edge of my paper that are equal distance from one another. And then I'm going to line those up with my vanishing point. And then this one will too. So this is actually the corner of the building, but before I do those lines, I'm going to have lines that are going to go across them. So I want to do these first. Again, as they go away from the vanishing point, they get further and further apart.
Now I'm going to do those lines. So now these lines are going to go horizontally across this way. So it's nice to have already these lines here, so you just have to line those up. And these lines are parallel that I'm doing with the bottom and top edges of the paper, as best as I can do them. All right, this next building I'm going to do is actually going to be centered on the corner. So I'm going to start off here with a line that is not parallel with the edges of the paper. But again, I am going to line up those lines with the vanishing point. And maybe this one here will have a line that's also trying to keep this as a 90-degree angle here as much as possible. May take a little playing around with. You might even have a spare piece of paper laying around that you could use as a corner for this to see how well it lines up with it. Or even your ruler itself could be used to get that line a little straighter. And then I'm going to bring, again, the edge of that line to the edge of the paper here. I'm going to do a building that's going to be partially behind it. So for this one, again, it's a building on its own lot, so I'm going to just bring this out. And again, I'm going to use the corner of my ruler to make that edge there. And again, I'm going to bring those lines that are free floating here, the corner and that edge, so it lines up with the vanishing point. But I wouldn't do this line because maybe this building is behind it and it would go further into it. So we're not going to worry about that building so much. Let's do a few more buildings. Let's do one that has an interesting shape coming down. So I'm going to do a line that's here, and I'm going to bring that line down only part way to the edge of the paper. So I am going to stop a little way down, and then we're going to make another line that is longer, and we're going to line up that with our vanishing point and bring it down a ways. And then I'm going to bring that across, but I'm going to make that line longer again because this is almost like a step pyramid kind of a building. And we're going to bring that all the way down. All right, for our next building, how about we do one that has an L shape going this way? All right, so we've got our L shape. We're going to line up those edges, again with the vanishing point. Looks like our building is slightly unfinished, so we need to bring a line here. We'll line up that with the vanishing point as well. So this building has a little dip in it. All right, for our next building, we are going to have a building that might be very, very tall here. We're going to do a straight line, and it's got a small top because it's so far away from us. So we're going to bring this down. And then I'm going to bring a couple off to the side of it. So we're going to just make 2 more lines. Line those up. bring them down. These buildings are kind of smushed together over here. And maybe we'll have one more over here. There we go. And maybe this building, maybe we'll have the L shape go here on that one. We'll line this up. And then we'll have it go across. All right, this next building I'm going to do is an architecturally designed kind of a building. And it's actually going to have a curve here because the building at the top is curved. And we're gonna have the line go straight across here. And so then we would take that again and line it up here and line it up here like so. Maybe on the side of this building here, we are going to have kind of a futuristic, kind of a elevator shaft that sometimes you can see on buildings. So this time I'm going to do a curve after making the line out from the vanishing point. And I should make sure though that these lines are going to be further and further apart the further down they go. And the top of this, since it's more of a cylinder, is going to be a curve as well. All right, I've decided to make this building have a step down. So it's going to step down as we go. Maybe I don't want those to be quite so prominent. So we're gonna do this, let's see, like so, and that's gonna be like that. If I wanna bring those and have a shape, maybe I could bring that up. Well, maybe not. I think that looks pretty good. Don't feel like you have to fill in every line here, but if you feel like you need to do some overlapping, like maybe there's another building that's coming in front of one, absolutely go ahead and don't be shy about going back and erasing. Because sometimes that's when it becomes more realistic looking. And I kind of feel like I need to have a side of the building here. So I'm going to take my ruler, again, make it squared. And then we're going to line up that. And it's almost going to be a straight down from that, from the vanishing point, just from the reference point that we're at. With the vanishing point in play. All right, now I'm just going to add a few more lines and maybe add a little bit of shading. All right, so now I'm going to erase my vanishing point. And you can put all sorts of things, like you could put, maybe there's an airplane flying by. And this would be what it might look like from underneath it. You could have birds that are flying, or even birds that are perching, or hey, maybe there's a person sitting on the end of this building here, and they're looking down at the people down below, and you have to make them pretty small because these buildings are pretty tall. You could have somebody, maybe they have a drone flying around up here. You know, if this was a futuristic society, you could have spacecraft, hover vehicles moving around. You could maybe even have Superman flying through the air. But really, your imagination is going to be the limit on these. I'm just going to put a few little puffy clouds. These few little touches really do a lot to make it look 3D. Maybe I'll have the sun tucked away over here. And there's my completed drawing. Oh, I hope you enjoyed doing that lesson as much as I enjoyed teaching it. I know that your 3D cities are going to be unique and special just like you. All right, for our super interesting fact of the day, until the 1920s, May 1st was moving day in New York City. If you were going to move an apartment that year, you'd wait until that date, and then everyone would switch homes in one go. As the city grew and grew, the tradition which stretched back to colonial times began to die out because moving day had become too big and chaotic. Streets were blocked with horse-drawn moving wagons. Thankfully, New Yorkers can and do move on any day of the year now. All right, until next time, make sure that you are kind to everyone you see. Do something nice for someone in your house today and keep on making great art.